Welcome back. This is Urdizzle with my Pro Tour Week 89 rounds, all four of them. And going through my usual bag setup for all four rounds, I've got my Accurate Windbreak Fuse, River, and Musket, my Windbreak Glide Recoil, and then my usual two ballistas, the Light Glide and the Light Skip. So I put a poll out on Facebook and asked what people were looking for, what content they'd like to see. And they said regardless of where I finish, that primarily they wanted to see Pro Tour rounds. So here you guys go. So round one, hole one, so holes 1 through 3 are Oak Hill. And most people know this, but some people don't, that the holes are all grouped 3 of the same course. So holes 1, 2, and 3 are the same course, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9. And so hole 1, I was able to start off really well there. The wind was not favorable to try to make the island in one, so I just left it short of the water and was able to hit the throw-in. And honestly, that is the difference between good rounds and great rounds, is being able to hit those 90, 100, 120-foot shots. So hole 2 is probably one of the easiest in the game. If you've got a recoil, just throw it out there to the left, let it come around the tree and slide right down. The musket sometimes likes to come up a little short. The recoil almost never comes up short. All right, hole 3 with a pretty favorable wind here, so I was able to throw my light skip way out there, and I thought I left it a little too short, but I was able to get a big skip off the hill, and that's the beauty of using the skip, is even if it goes a little too far left, you're able to get it down there pretty easily. So pretty much perfect start, eagle, birdie, eagle. Hole 4, 5, 6, we now shift over to Lakeside, and again, with a wind of 3, this can get a little tricky, but as long as you make sure to kind of leave it out to the right and just let the wind bring it back. And so that's the thing about the wind. The wind doesn't have a huge effect, but with light discs, if you get them up in the air, it will kind of bring them back to the left or the right or whichever way the wind's blowing. So that one, pretty much a gimme if you're playing at the top level of these tournaments. Hole 5, and this is one I do like to ace run sometimes with the recoil, but with a wind of 3, you really got to watch going too far. And so this one, I just played for the birdie. There's no point in going way too far. If that's a wind of 1 or maybe a headwind, I'll bump up to the recoil and give it an ace run. And I don't hit it very often, but sometimes I do. So it's worth a shot. All right, hole 6, and ever since the 924 update, I believe it was 924, one of those updates, this has just become one of those where you almost have to go for it, especially if it's a wind of 1. There's really no danger if you really know your discs. And so in this version 926, and remember I'm still in 926 because I've got an iPhone. I know a lot of people are on 946 that are on Androids. I know that Light Glide ballista so well. I just know all the angles to put it on no matter what the wind is. So there's pretty much, unless it's a headwind of 3, I'm going for eagle almost every time on that. Doesn't matter if it's a daily tournament, a Pro Tour, multiplayer, whatever. So 6 holes in, I have not made a single mistake, so I'm feeling pretty good about this round. 4 eagles going, and this is one, a great drive too. Kick up the hill. Wish I would have gotten a little higher up the hill, so that is less than ideal. So this is not an easy shot with a wind of 2, but I'm hoping to keep the streak going. And in the air, I thought I had a really good shot of getting it, but I just left it a little to the right. And so was not able to get that one. So my perfect round is kind of over. And again, if you've watched some of my earlier videos, what I consider a perfect round is not multiple aces or crazy throw-ins. It's just getting every birdie you need to get, getting every eagle that's eagleable, and just kind of going from there. And so that was the first one where I really probably should have gotten that one. All right, hole 8, pretty easy with the river shot. Again, I love the river over the Explorer because it almost never goes too far to the right. Then hole 9, we've got the shelf hole here. And so with the wind of 1, this is go time. I'm not trying to get it up on the shelf, but with my musket, I'll play it short. And if I can get anywhere in the 90 to 110 range, I feel pretty good about this shot. And so I was able to get it 92. I feel pretty good about throwing this in almost every time. I shouldn't say every time. I'm about 90% on if that wind in that range, and I went way over the top. I said 90% because that was just awful. And so now I'm throwing back through the trees here, and this is one where you just blast it through. And so I was hyping that up because that is one I really should have made. And so I finished 13 under, but honestly, I really should have been at least 14, if not 15. And 15 under was actually the hot round, but I would have been happy with 14 under, but I was not happy missing hole 9 there. So still a pretty solid round, 13 under, and as you see there were 3 14s, and I think somebody did end up throwing a 15 under. So as of round 2, I am 2 shots off the lead, which early in the tournament, you can't win a tournament on the first round or on the first day, but you can definitely lose it. So I don't feel like I did anything to lose it. Mm-hmm. All right, so round 2, we now shift to holes 1, 2, 3 on Lakeside. And this is one I like to go river. I usually feel pretty comfortable that I can give this a run every time, especially with a wind of 1. There's really no danger here because it's really not going to go too long if I miss. So I really tried to run that one, just didn't quite get the line I wanted and left it a little right. And so the river does like to turn over a little bit, but I mean, 55 feet. Now, normally I would putt that in, but for whatever reason, the last couple days, I've just been in lazy mode, and I've been throwing in all those shots instead of putting them, but most of the time, that is my shot. So, now this one right here, I will pause a little bit because, just missed that one, because this hole has been popping up a lot lately. I mean, I think it was in 1 or 2 of the rounds last week, and now it popped up again on this one, so whoever's designing the holes for these Pro Tour rounds, it seems like they're tossing it in a little more often. All right, so this is not a gimme with a wind of 3 because you never know what that wind's going to do, but the Light Glide Ballista, again, I told you guys earlier, I know the angles so well on that disc that it could be really any wind, 1, 2, 3, and I feel like I'm going to get it. So I was able to get the eagle. So pretty good start here. I would have liked to get hole 1, but that's kind of a bonus. All right, hole 4. Once you shift over to Owlwood, anything can happen. I absolutely hate this hole, but I've been throwing the recoil lately with a lot of turnover, and that's pretty much exactly where I want that one to be. I think the branches don't hang down as far on the right side there, and honestly, you could probably throw the light skip and park it, but for me, with my throw-in game, if you put me at 76 feet, that's like a 10-foot putt. I mean, I feel like I'm going to make that every time, especially with a favorable wind. And then this one, par 4s. I love par 4s that are not necessarily longer. I don't like a lot of the ones you can eagle every single time, but like this one, there's really no way to get it to the basket consistently, and so you kind of have to play placement shots. And even in real life, I love shorter placement par 4s, like 550-foot par 4, something in that range where most normal people aren't driving it, but you also need a good drive to put yourself in position. So that's why I like that hole. And then this hole, I won't say I don't like it, but I really got to work on this one. Because this is one where sometimes, see, I do that, and that was just way too tight. Way too tight. And that recoil normally does much better than that, but that was just not a good shot. And so once you're in there, it's just a hope and a prayer. You're not going to birdie it. I mean, you could with some miraculous shot, but just got to take your medicine and move on. So up to this point in the tournament, I gave away a couple strokes in hole 1, but really the 2 strokes I think I gave away were hole 9, round 1, and that one right there. So not a perfect tournament so far, but again, you don't have to be perfect. You just got to make sure you're taking advantage of the opportunities. So hole 7, 8, 9, we shift over to harrowing. And hole 7, if you ace run that, you're going to go OB. It's just not worth it. Same with this one here. There are ways that I can throw the Light Glide Ballista or even the light skip sometimes and get an ace run, but it's just, I will bogey it, or I will par or bogey it more than I will hole in one it. And so it's not worth the risk. So those are pretty straightforward hole in ones. Same with this one, especially with a wind of 3. I've got some lines in daily tournaments where I'll throw a Light Glide Ballista way up in the air and slam it down. But this one, I'm just throwing my recoil. There's really 7, 8, 9. There's nothing to do on those holes. Just get your 3 birdies and don't do anything stupid. And that's it. So we finished off birdie, birdie, birdie. So I did leave that stroke out there. 9 under, not my best round, but it is what it is. I think I was able to get pretty much everything else I needed to get other than that hole 6 mistake. So honestly, that would put me at 10 under. I think there were a couple 11 unders, but there really weren't. Yeah, see, looking at the leaderboard now, there were no real hot rounds. I think there were a couple 11 unders once all the rounds were posted, but really not a whole lot else going on. So by the time everybody else had done their rounds, there were at least 1 or 2, if not more, people that were at 25 under. So at this point, going into round 3, I know I was 3 strokes out of first place. So I needed to do something spectacular, or at least something to gain some of those strokes back. So I'm hoping for some layouts that'll give me some opportunities that are maybe not easy. All right, so round 3, we shift over to hole 1. And cave to cave, this is one of the reasons I don't know if I could ever take the recoil out of the bag. It's just such a nice disc. And that one I left a little short, but was able to skip in there. I'm pretty much around 99% on this hole. I have come close to making a couple mistakes on this one, but that recoil has just completely made that a much, much, much easier hole. All right, hole 2, we then shift over to the par 4. And again, I like this one because it's a placement shot. The second shot is not always difficult, but you really, really, really got to make sure you put it in a good spot so you're not hiding behind any bushes or trees, kind of like that. But I'm close enough to those that those are not going to cause any collision issues. And so I decided to get a little aggressive here and go with the river just to see if I could make it. And I went a little long. Normally that's just a fuse shot up the hill, but again, I knew I was 3 strokes back, so I thought I would, take a couple risks, and that was calculated where I really wasn't going to do anything, too crazy. I wasn't going to go musket or anything like that. All right, hole 3, we got the shelf hole, left to right 3. This is such a tough hole to get. Such a tough hole with that wind. And I left that way, 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 way short. That was just not good. And so from this range, I'm going to use my favorite shot, which is the forehand fuse. And I was able to slam that in. That was just, again, I think that's my signature shot, is that forehand fuse. I just feel so good about that one. All right, hole 4, we've got this hole. Now, it was this point in time you'll notice I pause because I remember this layout now from last week's Pro Tour. And so right here, I actually looked up my round from last week because I remember this hole 4, was one I threw it and it went in the water right. And so I adjusted my shot. And so it was right here when I realized I knew this layout, because we're in week 89. This was in week 88. So right here, I looked up my round, but I already remembered the layout. So each of these holes, I will go a little quicker because I remembered. So this one with the river is a little tricky, but knowing which layout this is, I hate that they use duplicate layouts, but that's one of the things, if you play enough daily tournaments and pro tours, you start to recognize some of the rounds and some of the layouts. And so that benefited me a little here. So I actually loaded up on my computer my YouTube video that I posted of last week's, and it didn't really help me too much. Like that last hole, the Mando hole, that's pretty easy. This hole 6, is pretty easy too with the wind of 1. I mean, that is, I don't know if I'll miss that, but maybe 1 time out of 100, if that. It's just a very easy hole, even from 47 feet downhill. So, and I forget what I did. I think last time I played this layout, now that I'm recording this, I don't remember what I did in week 88, but I think this hole right here, I threw it and it just slid under the log. And then this one, I almost didn't make it over. So I tried to adjust my shot a little bit, and I damn near screwed that one up. So I think I missed that shot. God, I wish I remembered what I did on that one, but I know I made some mistakes. And so I'm trying to fix that right now. All right, so hole 8, Owlwood. Again, these are not easy holes. I'm throwing my recoil. And the only time this goes bad is if it lands on its side and rolls through that bush and down the hill. It's an automatic bogey. And so I was able to get that one. And so I'm feeling pretty good right now, but now I know I remembered what hole was coming up on hole 9. It's this guy. I hate the leaf collision on this hole because you have to throw an almost perfect shot. So I was hyper-focused right here, getting through those leaves, and that was just an absolutely perfect shot. So right now I'm thinking to myself, I've got the 11 under. I was actually already thinking ahead to where I would be in the standings and how many strokes I would make up. And so I lost focus for a little bit. And of course, what happens when you lose focus? You do dumb stuff like that. So that just shows you got to keep your head in the moment. And even at this level, I still make those mistakes. Again, I was so happy to correct the mistakes that I made in week 88 on this layout, and how lucky I was to get over the wall on the previous hole, and how lucky I was to get through all the leaves that I was already chalking up the 11 under. I was already thinking ahead, and I just completely missed what honestly should be a gimme at this point. So that's 3 strokes now through 3 rounds that I've given up, at least 1 stroke each round. And those are the little things. We'll talk about this after round 4. And so at this point in time, I'm now 3 strokes behind the lead, and 3 strokes, and I gave away those 3 strokes, 1 each round. That's the difference. That is honestly the difference why I'm sitting now in a tie for 5th. And so my goal now is just to finish strong. And going into round 4, I already know that there were some really, really good scores posted. One of the leaders, I think Orange Pie, posted a 14 or 15 under. And so at this point in time, going into round 4, I know I'm not going to win. But I'm feeling, I saw the scores out there. There were 13 unders, and I almost aced hole 1. There were 13 unders and 14 unders and 15 unders. So at this point, I'm just thinking maximize my opportunities, get the best score I can, get a good rating. But I know at this point, I'm probably not going to win. Not unless I shoot like a 17 under or something ridiculous. All right, so hole 2. This is one with a wind of 3 is pretty tricky to get down there. And I felt pretty good about it. But just with the wind of 3, that's just such a hard hole to ace. Because I think with a wind of 3, 4, and 5, you get a lot more dips. Like the disc will go up and down. It's not as predictable. And so even if you have the correct line, it's not always going to work on those. And so if I had a shot at first, even an outside shot, I really needed to ace that one, and then I need to eagle this one. And that one, this hole, for whatever reason, I think the basket is a little elevated. So 95 feet, but I think it's slightly uphill. So I always have to give it a little more power to make sure I get it there. And so that one, I threw it like it was 110 feet. I just had to give it a little more juice. So, and then hole 4, there's this hole again. I think this is the 3rd time this one with a wind of 1. They just keep popping up over and over and over. And that one I left a little too far to the right. That was not a good shot. And so I'm 80 feet. That is pretty bad shot from that range, and I thought I left it too high. I really thought that was going to spit out. I bet anybody that plays the 946 update, you're probably looking at that shot and thinking, yeah, that would have spit out for sure. But 926, that is sticking. All right, hole 5. And at this point, I know I'm out of first. I'm not ace running. I'm not doing anything stupid. I'm just taking my birdies when I get them, and if there are eagle opportunities, I'll get them too. So right now I have 2 eagles, and then I see this hole, the albatross hole, and I've got to get this one. And so normally this is one you got to worry about clearing, but I aim way, way, way high and just play kind of a stall shot. So what I want this one to do is clear the water and just drop down nice and soft, just like that. So with a wind of 2, you don't have to aim as low. I almost actually went forehand on that one, but I have not really practiced the forehand shot on that hole as much, so I wasn't comfortable with it. All right, shifting over to 7, 8, 9, and I now see why people were shooting 13, 14, and 15 under, because now we got a few Oak Hill holes. And so this one, I'm hoping to get a big skip out of it, and I did. And so this is another one where I think the basket is slightly elevated. And so you got to give it a little bit more juice. And with a wind of 3, again, I don't know what other way to say that was just not a good shot. I'm not saying I should have made that, but I definitely should have been closer than I was. That was just, I overcompensated for the change in elevation. So I kind of gave that one away. Then we shift over to this one with a wind of 1. I mean, this is one you absolutely have to get. And if I had a bag that had more than 6 discs, this is one where I might use the glide skip. I have a little bit better luck with the glide skip, but the light skip, I mean, if I do it correctly, works fine. Although that was not a great shot. I left that too far to the right. But 85 feet into a 1 headwind, that's no problem. Unless it's hole 9 of round 3 and then I screw it up and do something stupid. So it sometimes takes those mistakes to kind of reboot and remind you to focus on those shots. And again, this one, I could ace run it, but at this point, I knew what the game plan was. Just get the birdie, get out. And so that was, I got to admit, that was a pretty good round. I didn't really give a good run on that Oak Hill par 4 with the water there, but I mean, that was a great round. If I could, oh, here we got the glitch from 10 feet. Luckily, that didn't last very long. So, pretty solid round, 14 under. I think it was one shot off the hot round. And I really only left, I mean, I could have gotten the eagle, but I really only left the one stroke out there. And I wouldn't call either of those I missed a gimme. So, overall, I think throughout the 4 rounds, I probably had 4 or 5 strokes that I kind of left out there, 3 that I really should have had. And so when I finished, you can see Orange Pie up there with a 48 under. I was 46. So I was 2 strokes out of first place. And so you see the fine line. Like, it doesn't take much to go from first down to third or fourth or wherever. And I did end up finishing 4th. And so you guys will see the final standings. So this is the standings when I finish my round. Here are the standings at the end of the tournament. So I was 46 under, and there were a couple 47s and a 48. So very easily could have tied or won this just with a couple silly mistakes that I managed to throw in there. But overall, pretty solid. And I think it kind of shows you guys that even players at this level, we make mistakes. You're all going to make mistakes. It's just fighting through them and making sure you finish strong. So hope you guys enjoyed that. And then this is my card at the end of the tournament. So I did finish 4th. And my rating, surprisingly, is only 1013 in the moment because I still have a 100 floating around in my last 25 from when my phone froze for the disc selection glitch. So I think my other 24 rounds minus that 100 are like 1038 or 1039. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this. So I don't always get first place in these. Sometimes I mess up, and hopefully you guys learned a little something about some of the courses. And I will be back next week with another Pro Tour setup.